Hello and welcome to my 10,000 subscriber YouTube Q&A special. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we got here. Thank you so much for clicking on my videos and pressing the subscribe button and liking and commenting. You know, my initial reason to make this channel was so that my music could be heard in the ether, but I think that we've achieved so much more than that, because we now have a lovely little internet community going. It's such a nice corner of YouTube where everybody is so kind and welcoming and supportive. And since reaching 10k, I've really enjoyed getting to know people a bit better through the Discord page, which you should all join, which me and my brother run. We've had some wonderful, absolutely bizarre conversations on there, and that's been so fun. Also, channel memberships are a thing that have recently come into this channel. You'll see the little join button next to my name, and those who join that get a little weekly update on Fridays, because there's lots of slightly bizarre things I'm doing at the moment which are very exciting, so I tell those people about them. And also, if you're a channel member and you'd like to join the Discord, then send me a message about it, because we will put a little thing next to your name on the Discord that says you're a member, so you're part of the Cool Kids Club. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning in to my music and supporting me. It is because of you that my music is being heard, and heard by the people I want it to be heard by. And thank you for helping build this lovely little internet community. So my intention with this Q&A was to answer every single question, and then I got asked 59 questions, which is not quite what I expected. So I'm going to answer 15 of them. I've got my little mouse here, my laptop here, and I'm just going to scroll. It's wireless, it's really cool. I'm just going to scroll and stop on a random question without looking, and then answer. And we're going to see how we go. So without further ado, welcome to the Q&A. Question 1. Question 1 is from JupHut99, who says, what original song are you most proud of and why? The song that I'm most proud of at the moment is one that you haven't actually heard yet, but I think it's going to be the one that I put on this Monday, and it's called And He'll Find Me. And I'm proud of it because it's a very sort of old style, and it's taking inspiration from sort of 40s and 50s musical theatre. And I like the melody, and I like the contour of the melody. I like how it rises and it goes back down. I'm usually most proud of my songs that are most sort of melodically driven, because I feel like they have the most impact. They're the ones that people like the most, and they're the ones that I like the most. The ones that are focused around the vocal line and maybe have some nice chords here and there. But at the moment, that's one I'm most proud of. Yeah. I see JupHut has actually asked 2 questions. They also say, do you have any plans to release your original music in some form, e.g. an EP or an album? We have some things in the works right now. I have been in the studio a little bit. I'm not going to say too much, but there are things in the works, and there are things being planned, which will be shared with you whenever it is ready. So stay engaged and we shall see. Question 2 is from Christopher Bova 8109, who says, what is your favourite Beatles song? I knew I was going to be asked this, and I hate it every single time. I don't hate it, it's just very difficult to answer, because my favourite Beatles song changes week by week. When I was a kid, it used to always be Help. That would be the #1 Beatles song that was my favourite. At the moment, I've been listening to I Me Mine quite a lot. It got me through exams, but I think right now my favourite is probably Honey Pie. I think Paul's granny music is very close to my heart, and it makes me very happy listening to that song, so I'd say Honey Pie at the moment. Yeah. Question 3 is from You and Who's Tube, who says, why do you think rock/guitar music is no longer as popular as it used to be, or maybe you disagree? I think that music taste has become a lot more fragmented due to the lovely internet and social media. We definitely still have a mainstream, of course. We have the charts, we have artists like Taylor Swift, Sabrina Carpenter, Chappell Roan, all those kinds of artists. So we definitely still have a mainstream, but I think that what's classified as niche, everything that's not in that, has become more and more fragmented, but it's all still there. So there is definitely a huge market for rock and guitar music. If you find the right artist, it's massive. It's just not necessarily what's in the charts right now. And I think that that's just because taste has become so much more varied. You could definitely argue the opposite of that with the fact that we do have a mainstream. This is going into my sort of A-level sociology stuff from 3 years ago. But I think it definitely is still very, very popular. Maybe it's not what's currently mainstream right now, so it couldn't be classed as popular as it used to be, but it's still there, and it's still super prevalent. You just have to know where to find it, I think. Okay, question 4 is from the Bernadites, who says, what is your process when you record a song? What input or what spice do you use when adapting or composing the covers or the originals? Okay, I know that this isn't exactly what the question is asking, but I did want to share with you anyway the process on how I record in a technical perspective. Is I use this Tascam microphone and I prop it up on the piano, and then I also use, hang on a second, I use this Sony camcorder thing that we've had in the family for yonks. It's very old and not the best quality, as you will have seen, but look, you can like turn a thing around, and that's me. But I love it. It's such a good little thing, and it's really quick and easy to use. So that's the technical process. In terms of the musical process, when I am adapting the covers, when I'm taking, say, a Beatles song that I like, let's take She Loves You, for example. Unfortunately, it's quite difficult for me to say an exact process I use because it's very spontaneous. So with She Loves You, I knew the song like the back of my hand anyway, and the arrangement that you see on the channel, the sort of slow version of it, that was what sort of happened straight away. So I sat down at the piano and thought, let's sing She Loves You, let's give it a go. And I thought, right, well, it's in G, first chord is G, and I naturally sort of did it with the A, so G sus2 or whatever, and went from there. And that's how I sort of played it without thinking much about it, so it's hard for me to describe a process of it. I think maybe I pick out subconsciously parts of like the instrumental melodies of the song, like if there's a little guitar riff or something, I'll pick it out and put it into the piano arrangement, even if I don't consciously think about it. I'll try and think of an example. While My Guitar Gently Weeps, that's an example. So in that cover, I'm sort of combining the anthology version, the version with the strings, and the original version. So there's a bit in the string version where they do this sort of descending, beautiful, like swoopy thing, and I put that in my version, I think in the 3rd or 4th verse, but it's something that I didn't really think about. It just kind of felt like it was right, and it was the natural thing to do. So I think, to conclude, it's mainly spontaneous, with picking out certain important bits that I'm not singing, but that I want to put into the arrangement, and then that makes it all a bit fuller and less sort of super exposed. So that's the process for the covers. When I'm writing songs, I don't do lyrics and music separately. I do it all in a mush together. What I usually do is I will think up like the chorus riff or something, like the most important hook in the song first, and then it will grow from there. So for example, for I Just Keep Missing You, the first thing I thought of was the line I Just Keep Missing You, with the melody and with the chords all in one mush. It just sort of appeared. This is a very bad explanation, but it did sort of appear in my brain, and then I went to the piano or went to the ukulele, whatever was there, and built it from there, working on the melody and the lyrics at the same time, rather than like writing it as a poem first and then adding music, or doing it the other way around. It comes in a mush. I write on both the piano and the Barry uke. For the one that you're going to hear on Monday, which is And I'll Find Him, I wrote it in the bathroom on the ukulele because the acoustic is so good in there. So that's why it's so melody focused, because I couldn't cover up other bits with a piano accompaniment. Like with the uke, you can only really do the chords. So you have to lead the song by singing the melody, but with a piano accompaniment, you could make it more complicated and make the song less melody focused. So I'd say when I write on the ukulele, I'm sort of forced to make it purely melody based. And then when I write on the piano, there's a bit more leeway with that, but I write on both and I do the melody and lyrics in one sort of mush. I might do a proper video at some point explaining how I write songs from start to finish, but it's usually slightly different every time. But that is the main point. It's all in a mush, in a sort of weird brain mush altogether. So I'm aware that's a terrible answer to your question, but that's how I see the process. Okay. Question 4 is from Zach Ochert, who says, do you have a favourite Beatles film, Broad Street included? I haven't seen Broad Street. I think my favourite Beatles film is Hard Day's Night. I think it has to be, because we all know that my big Beatles passion is the earliest of the early of their stuff, their even pre-Beatles stuff, the sort of youthful energy, running around Liverpool being silly. That's what's close to my heart. And Hard Day's Night is the closest that we have to that. It's them being silly and running around, but with beautiful music in between. I used to particularly love the bit with Ringo where he puts the disguise on and is walking around and talking to that little boy. And I remember over lockdown I would put on the George Martin instrumental arrangement of This Boy and walk around the town when nobody was there and like pretend to be Ringo and kicking stones and causing trouble. So I think Hard Day's Night probably. But actually, come to think of it, my other favourite Beatles film is Nowhere Boy. And I don't know if I can say that because it's not involving them. But Nowhere Boy, I absolutely adore it as a film. I think it's so good. I think the actors are amazing. It's Aaron Taylor-Johnson and Thomas Brodie Sangster. And I love them. And I love the Liverpool setting and the youthfulness and the rock and rolliness. And it's just a beautiful film. So those two films are my favourite Beatles films. Okay, question 5 is from Eduardo Ollins 5391, who says, what are your top 5 artists / bands of all time? I really wanted to get this question. So the Beatles, number 1. Paul McCartney as a solo artist, number 2. Now, before I got into the Beatles, the main artist I was into was Dodie Clark, who plays the ukulele and the piano and sings beautiful original songs. She's the reason that I bought my baritone ukulele. I think it's, yeah, there it is. She's the reason I bought that when I was very tiny, and now it's one of my favourite, it's one of my most prized possessions. So she was a very important artist to me when I was younger. But I'm not entirely sure how to order and say a specific top 5. So I'll tell you about some other artists that I'm into at the moment and sort of change the question slightly. So separate from pop and rock and roll music altogether, I'm really into film music and sort of character themes. So people that come to mind would be Carlos Rafael Rivera, who wrote the soundtrack to The Queen's Gambit, or Murray Gold, who wrote the Doctor Who soundtrack. People like that who do beautiful character themes and the sort of thing you can listen to when you're walking around and imagine that you're in a period drama and things like that. I also love old French film music, Michel Legrand, who my dad introduced me to. I think he's absolutely brilliant. And I love the sort of jazz where it's like Frank Sinatra crooning with a soaring string section in the background. I love that. And I think that's partially why some of my songs, people have said there's a slight sort of musical theatre-y thing in them. I think that's probably why. But at the moment, I'm really into Slovenian pop music, and this is something that is going to become more and more relevant to what I'm doing and to my channel very soon, which is very exciting. And the 2 artists that spring to mind that I love in particular, the first is a rock band called Joker Out, and they represented Slovenia in Eurovision in 2023, and a solo artist who describes himself as nostalgic indie pop called Blaž Mensinger. And they are both wonderful artists who I will put in the description. Also, in Liverpool has an absolutely thriving local music scene, and there are some brilliant local artists, and there are 3 in particular who I really, really love and really love seeing live. The first is Lydia Rees, who I first saw in London with a brilliant sort of jazz ensemble backing her up. She has an EP, I think it's an EP, called Looking Glass, and my favourite songs on that are Penny and She Don't Know. Another local Liverpool artist / artists that I really love are an Irish brother duo called the Guzzlers, who are fab, and their songs have such a brilliant sense of humour, and they're really catchy, and they're often at lots of the open mics, and they're really great. And then also a folk musician called Ellis Murphy, who is very Dylan inspired. He's got some beautiful, beautiful songs, and he's got a few demo EP releases on SoundCloud. So I will put all of those artists in the description. So I'm not sure how to say my top 5 of all time, but those are some people that I love listening to generally. So check them out. I think we're on question 6. Let's do it. Question 6 is from Nexu6, who says, how do you post covers on YouTube? What are the legalities? Have you ever had to deal with copyright issues? This is a very good question. So for all the Beatles covers, I'm revenue sharing with the Beatles. So I post a cover, well, I upload a cover, and before I actually publish it and make it live, YouTube knows that it's a Beatles song. It picks it up with their weird software. I don't know how they do it. They pick up that it's a Beatles song, and then they check with what the Beatles have said they want to do in this situation. So have the Beatles given permission for other people to post covers? Do the Beatles want nobody to do that? Or are the Beatles fine with people posting covers, but they want to split the revenue? And it is option 3. So it comes up, it says revenue sharing, copyright notice. It's absolutely fine for you to do this, but we're going to share your dosh with the Beatles. So far, I have had no issues with this. It has been absolutely fine. It's something I really want to study a bit more to learn exactly how it works. There have been a few issues with AI where my music has been taken by a robot and put in a different context, and I haven't been able to control that, but I am working on knowing how to control that, basically, and knowing exactly what my rights are, because it's very important in this day and age that you know exactly what your rights are and you say exactly what you want to happen with your songs, whether you give permission for them to be covered, whether you don't, or whether you're fine with it but want the revenue to be shared. So option 3 is mainly what applies to me and the Beatles covers. This only applies to YouTube, I think. I've received a few comments from people saying, oh, could you release a record of Beatles songs and put it on Spotify, put it on SoundCloud? The answer to that, I'm pretty sure, is no. Unless I had a lot of money, then I think there would be the option. I think, because I'm not sure, I think the Beatles catalogue is so protected, I think it would be very, very complicated. So basically, unfortunately, at this current point in time, I cannot release any Beatles covers on anything that is not YouTube. I might be incorrect on some of the things I just said. Please don't quote me on any of that, but that is the impression I get. Revenue sharing, and it's just for YouTube. Okay, question 7 is from AJ1915, who says, if you were to describe yourself with a colour, what would it be? Oh, good question. I would be 2 colours. I would be navy blue and I would be orange. I say navy blue because there is a part of my soul that is very calm and wants a very simple, calm life where I'm just at peace in myself and with the world around me and fine. Orange is my slightly bonkers side, wanting to do loads of cool stuff, being ambitious and driven by things and wanting to do music as boom, 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 and post loads and loads of stuff and share it with as many people as possible, and my sort of weird and slightly wacky dreams and goals and things I want to do. So I'd say those 2 colours are like the 2 parts of me, and one day I would love to combine them. At the moment they are very much in competition with another, but they also, even though they're such different colours, they also look good side by side. So I think blue and orange are what I would be. There's also another question here which says, while I'm loving the current format, do you have any plans to add some multi-track stuff back into the mix like you used to do? The streets won't forget you playing trombones and all sorts in your older videos. At the moment, I really love the formula that I have going of just piano or ukulele or guitar and vocals. I love it because it feels the most authentic to me in what I'm doing now. It has meant that I've really developed my piano playing and my arrangements. It's quick, which is good, not in a sense that I can just churn out stuff and put it on, but I think it's good because it gives an authentic vision of how I do music, because some parts of it can be very, very quick. With what I was saying before about it being quite spontaneous, I like that I can sort of show you that. With the multi-track stuff, you obviously have to keep going over and going over and going over, which I love doing and is a wonderful way of doing stuff. But at the moment, I'm preferring to do these sort of one take, quick, no cut things. I'm really enjoying it at the moment. In future, and when I have more time to devote to just music, I would love to do more multi-track stuff. But we will see where we go. At the moment, I'm going to stick with the current formula because I like it and I think that other people like it. So. Question 7 is from Socrates Bandiera, who says, do you do anything more for a living other than music? Yes, I do. I have a little part-time job. I'm not going to tell you what it is for privacy reasons because the internet is very scary. But yes, I do. I've had a number of slightly weird little part-time jobs in my time, like little summer jobs. I was once a chalet cleaner at Butlins, which was slightly horrible. But now I'm playing at a festival in the same Butlins that I used to clean the toilets of. So life is weirdly circular. I was also a mystery shopper, which I'm not going to explain, but that was very weird. But yes, so I work part-time. I'm also a student. I'm doing a postgraduate degree, which is really good fun. I'm really enjoying it. And then I do all the YouTube stuff and general music stuff. So I've sort of got 3 different things happening all at once, and I'm having a good time. I'm really enjoying it and I'm very lucky, and yeah, things are good. Question 8 is from Jason B895, who says, I'd love to know what made you move to Liverpool apart from your obvious Beatles obsession. Okay, so obviously the obvious Beatles obsession comes into it. I think the city itself, I love that it's quite small. The city centre is quite small. It's easy to navigate. You will recognise many people. If you're just walking down the street, you will start recognizing all the same people, and I really love that. I love the familiarity, I love the security. Everyone tends to be very friendly, I think, and that has been really lovely. The local music scene, completely separate from the Beatles, the people that I mentioned before, the local music scene is absolutely thriving, and it's a really exciting time to be a part of it. Go down to the open mics. I love doing that. The video just cut off, but I shall continue. The docks. I love the docks. I love being so close to water. I really like that. So if I'm having a slightly rough time, feeling a bit weird, I can just go down to the water and sit back and just breathe, and I love that. Also, to do my postgrad degree, I came to Liverpool to do it. So yeah, the music, the people, the city itself, the docks, and my degree, and then wrap that all in a bow and put the Beatles on top of it, and it's basically the perfect place. Jason also says, where are your favourite places for a night out in Liverpool? What I will recommend are the open mics. So the Jacaranda do one on a Sunday, the Cabin Pub do the Monday Club on a Monday, which I try to go to. Obviously it clashes with this. And there are loads of other ones throughout the week. And it's very welcoming and inviting and exciting. So those are, I'd say, my favourite places to go. The next question is from Tony Young 2854, who says, do you take requests? I read every single comment that I get, no matter how long, no matter how short, no matter how lovely, no matter how disapproving. I read every single one. And that means I read and consume every single request that I am given. I have a list of all of them. It's been really fascinating, especially receiving requests of songs that I don't know by people that I don't know. At the moment, I've been very busy, so I've only been able to do songs/requests that I already know really well. But when I have more time, I would love to properly delve into all the artists that I don't know and post loads of stuff on them. I would also like to branch out from the Beatles. I adore them, and this is not me saying I'm leaving them behind. They are coming with me in everything I do. But when I have more time, I want to do some other covers of other artists, maybe a bit more Radiohead. I really enjoyed doing some Radiohead covers, things like that, and more Beach Boys as well. I want to do more Beach Boys. So we'll see where we go. But yes, I take requests and I read every comment. Even if I don't do the request immediately, it might happen in a month or a year. This is not a very good answer, but yes, I do take requests. Question 9 is from Stephen Saleh 1275, who says, do you plan on doing more songs, covers or originals using guitar instead of piano? Where do you think guitar will fit into your future musical endeavours? When I write on guitar, that is usually either when I'm doing something a bit folky, like the Wallower, or when I'm doing something rock and rolly, like the Breakdown song. So I consider guitar mainly as part of the rock and rolly style, and what I would love to do with that would be eventually to have a band to play it with live, like play the Breakdown song with a band. Wouldn't that be so much fun? So I associate the guitar-y songs mainly with rock and roll, and I associate the piano songs mainly with ballads and sadness or whatever. So I want to bring in the guitar more and more eventually if I ever play more live stuff, even if I don't know, went on tour one day and then had a live band. That would be when the guitar would be the main shebang. But at the moment, I think for when it's just me, I think I'm still mostly going to do piano, but I am writing on the guitar very regularly. That is where the rock and roll screamy Jess comes in, and she will come out. She will come out. Just not yet. We will see. Question 10 is from P. Notching, who says, why did you remove your old songs? I thought they were great. They are not deleted. They are just temporarily privated, and I can make them public whenever I choose. It's just because I like having control over what's out there, because the internet is a scary place and I don't have that much control, so I want to exercise it in places that I have it. And it's just feeling more comfortable with people going straight to the more recent stuff rather than coming across the old stuff and that being their first impression of me, which is absolutely fine and is not a problem in the slightest. I just feel more comfortable and want people to be more magnetized towards the more recent stuff, and that's it. And I can change my mind whenever and make things public again. It's just however I feel at a certain point. Question 11 is from I Am Eagle Smith, who says, why the Beatles? Okay, so let me explain. So my parents have always listened to the Beatles. Me and my brother grew up with the Beatles sort of in the background in car journeys or whatever. I used to think that George was actually John or something, so I didn't really know anything about them, but they were always there. When I was 12, that was when the 8 Days a Week documentary came out in 2016. And they did a showing of it at my school, and I thought, oh, I should probably go. You know, if Dad was free tonight, he'd probably be going, so I should go on his behalf. And I went, and it changed my life. That film changed my life. It changed my brain chemistry. As soon as the credits rolled and 8 Days a Week started playing, it was the most emotion I'd ever felt in my life up to that point, because I was only 12, so my brain was very tiny and my emotional capacity was very small, and it was overwhelming, it was brilliant, it was beautiful. I don't know what it was, why exactly it happened, I don't know what it is about the band, but something big happened on that day, and I ran back home and was printing out photos of the Beatles and Paul and sticking them up on my wall and saying to my friends, this is my thing, this is who I'm going to be. So I have calmed down a bit, because it has been 9 years since that happened, but in a sense that also never changed, and I was right when I thought this is going to be me, this is going to be a huge part of me, and it was, and it still is. But they have had an absolutely massive impact on how I write songs and how I sing and the music that I like. And it all started when I was 12, watching 8 Days a Week. Igor also says, do you think a musician needs a formal education like you do? No. I wanted one because I was lucky enough to be able to choose to pursue one. So if you don't know, I studied GCSE music, A-level music. I have a music degree. So academic music has been a very big part of my life and my schooling. You don't need it. You don't need it. I have found it very useful to have been taught theory from a very young age, music theory. It's nice to be able to explain why certain things have certain effects, or why something makes me feel a certain way, why a certain chord is dissonant or smudgy and why another chord isn't. It's great to be able to explain why that is, but you don't need to be able to. Something that I've never wanted through my musical education, I've never wanted somebody to teach me how to write a song. And I never really wanted anyone to teach me how to play the piano and things like that. I wanted to develop that by myself. The things that I was taught were music history, music theory, musicology, all that kind of thing. And it is absolutely fascinating, but all those things and the curriculums I was taught were a very small portion of what music actually is. There is no way to have a music degree that includes everything, because everything is the whole world of music, which is infinite. There is no way for one person to know all of it, and it would be terrible if there was a claim that somebody could do that, because it's impossible. So the curriculums that I had, that's just one way of doing it. It's one Western-based way of doing it. So no, you don't need a formal music education, because a formal music education is only teaching you one way of doing it, which can be useful if you want it for various things, but no, you don't need it. And I have never been taught how to write a song. I've always winged it, and I want to always keep it that way. Yeah. I'm not sure what question we're on. I'm going to say that we're on question 12 because I'm not sure. Okay, this question is from Ems16739, who says, I really wanted to ask how you started playing music, or more specifically the piano. How did you progress? Were you self-taught? My dad is a piano teacher and he did not teach me. From what I can remember, I wanted to wing it and I wanted to just try it myself and see what happened. I don't remember this very well, but I adapted into my own style. But my own style of playing is actually very influenced by my dad's style of playing. There are a lot of times where the way that I space a chord or something makes me think, oh, that sounds like that song that my dad wrote like 20 years ago. It sounds quite similar. I play by ear. I can read sheet music and I can play by sheet music, but I prefer to play by ear. I developed that when I was in a cathedral choir when I was a kid, and we had so many rehearsals and were so exposed to music constantly on a daily basis that my pitch perception skills really developed, and I was able to use that on the piano, and that's how I do these arrangements kind of spontaneously, as I've previously mentioned. It's by doing it in that direction instead. Question 13 is from Mayu La La La, who says, did you move? I noticed the change of scenery. If so, how was that process? Yes, I did. So I finished my undergraduate degree in June. So that room with the window and the piano and the toy dog in the background, that was my room in Oxford. Beautiful room, beautiful place. So I moved out in June. So then I moved back home for a little bit with my parents. That is the room with the piano, in which there is a computer screen in the background with a really crowded desktop. And then I moved to Liverpool in August, and that is where I am right now, and that is where I play the piano in the kitchen. And I love it here. I absolutely love it here. How is that process? It's very strange moving from a place where I've been for 3 years, where all of my friends are, and a place that really feels like home, to starting again, starting afresh in a completely new city. But, I'd been to Liverpool before, I knew the place a little bit, I already knew people here. So I was very lucky. That made the process a lot easier. I guess it has been very emotional in some aspects. I do miss my old friends and I do miss the old place. But overall, I'm very, very happy here. I absolutely love it here. So the process has been, I'd say, pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. Oh, I love this. Admin CJ Benonymous 1211 says, if you could swim in any soup, what would it be? If the soup is so thick that you would sink, let's say you can breathe under it. What a question that is. I need to think about this for a second. You know what? I'm going to say broccoli soup. This might be a really boring answer, but broccoli soup, from my experience, tends to be quite thin. But then you've got the lumps of broccoli, which you can use as a woggle. Do you know what a woggle is? That might just be a weird British niche thing. Right, here we go. A woggle in a swimming pool is a buoyant, flexible foam tube, also known as a pool noodle. It is used as a flotation aid for learning to swim. Right, so that's what the broccoli is. So when you're swimming in the broccoli soup, if you want a flotation aid, or if you want to play a game with a woggle, or when you try and stand on a floaty thing in a swimming pool and try and keep it below water and then it shoots up. Did anyone do that? I don't know. That would be the broccoli. That would be the broccoli. So the soup is not so thick that I would sink. It's quite thin, and also I can use the broccoli to save me. But thank you for that question. I love that question. Did I say we were on question 14? I have a terrible short-term memory, that's another thing. Okay, we're going to say that this is now the final question because I keep losing track on where we are. Question 15 to end the Q&A. Okay, it's got to be a good one. Okay, I know we said we're on 15, but I came across this one, which I do want to talk about, and then I'll do another one after this. This is from Beelzebud, who says, I've read that the change to one's voice after transition does not go away after detransition. Aside from the obvious, how has this affected you as a singer? And this is a very good question, and I wanted to put it in the video just to say that I am not quite ready to answer the question, but it is an incredibly important conversation that is not nearly talked about as much as it should be, and I greatly look forward to contributing to that conversation, but I want to be fully prepared in order to do so, and I'm not quite there yet. So thank you for the question, and I can't wait to answer it at some point in the future. Okay, now this is going to be the actual final question. Okay, we're going to end with this. This is from Pebble Factory 6404, who says, what Beatles song is the first one you listened to, and what song made you fall in love with them? The song that I remember the most from my childhood is Yellow Submarine, because everyone used to sing it in the playground at school. They did a weird parody version of it. I also remember being for the benefit of Mr. Kite for some reason. I don't know why, because my parents tended to play the Red and the Blue album, and it's not on either of those. So I don't know. Also, I should have known better. I'd always remembered that one. I don't know why that is, because I don't think that's on the Red album either. So I don't know. I don't know which Beatles song is the first one I listened to. But, and this is a very good place to end, what song made you fall in love with them? That would have to be 8 Days a Week, because that is the song that played when the credits started rolling in the 8 Days a Week film. The intro comes in, they start singing. Little 12-year-old me sits back in her chair and goes, oh my God. And my friend next to me goes, are you all right, Jessie, you okay? And I go, something has happened. Even just relaying this story is giving me goosebumps. And I don't know why. It was just such an impactful, oh, I'm still, it was such an impactful moment. So the song that made me fall in love with the Beatles and thus changed the trajectory of my life and my music and my writing is 8 Days a Week. And on that note, thank you so much for watching this video. I don't know how long it's going to be. I've been filming for a very long time. Thank you for easing me into doing talking videos, because this is something I would love to do more often, and I was absolutely terrified by the prospect. But with the amount of lovely comments and 60 different questions, I feel very reassured that I can do this again. Do please join in on the Discord and the memberships and little things like that. We've got such a lovely little community going. I love popping online on the Discord on certain evenings and chatting about weird stuff. And I look forward to seeing you on Monday for the next Jessie Monday special. So see you soon. Bye bye.